Welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shyra.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self.
Hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night.
Wherever you are in the world, thank you for being with us here in this moment now.
Yay.
Uh,
Oh,
so, Shira actually attended a seminar, a talk last night in Austin called MindFest.
yeah.
And this actually led to a couple of interesting discussions this morning.
hmm
Would you mind sharing a little bit about
Yeah.
your experience first, and then we'll dive a little deeper into the topic that we
Yeah.
chose out of all of our discussions?
I know. So many discussions. Well, so Mindfest was held downtown Austin at a place called Vulcan. And it was a group of like kind of different political views, and there were different YouTubers and all walks of life, to be honest with you. And it had a very polarizing panel of people having this discussion. The first panel really did talk a lot more about, freedom. That was a big one. It was asked by a YouTuber that had won a competition or whatever. And so she asked a very, very good question. We'll link the live event down below in the description or in the comments, and y'all can check it out, watch the whole thing if you want to. It was very long. It was several hours. The second panel had a lot to do with the Twitter files. So
Mm,
so that was very interesting.
we didn't get there.
We
Yeah.
we didn't get there, Carrie and I, to as far as playing it back, but I did see it live, and it was fascinating. And one of the interesting points of the event was to have different views and opinions of individuals, political, social, you name it, come together and have a discussion and kind of prove that a discussion can be had. Uh, but I will say that there were moments where it would get heated, as to be expected when you have this polarizing group of individuals coming together addressing different topics. But it made me think, and that was kind of the point, right?
These discussions, which I think are way too few and far between,
Yeah.
I think that's such a huge aspect and benefit of having these discussions is it
Yeah.
makes you think about different points of view, different perspectives, how different choices or laws or beliefs impact different people,
Right.
um, depending on their economic status, their cultural status, like their skin color, their choice of religion, like there's so many differences of opinion. And it's interesting because I think and this isn't exactly our topic, but just
Right.
to go back to the freedom, like
Yeah.
that means so many different things to different people.
It does. It does. And we've always had this kind of viewpoint of, in the relationship to freedom, or maybe even not in the relationship to freedom, but just in other topics that you and I have discussed, we've always had this viewpoint in regards to your, you know, I keep getting this image of like a soul just like plopping into a place, right?
I mean, you've seen the movie Soul.
Right. But before doing that, you're choosing your destination, you're choosing your family dynamic. You understand from that perspective how the DNA of the body that you're gonna inhabit will impact some of the decisions that you make, and your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions. And with all of that, and we don't remember that coming here, right? We've got that veil of forgetfulness, and some don't, but that's really cool. And but most of us have the veil of forgetfulness, or we're coming back into the awareness and knowledge of that. And so just even having that thought, right? That your historical being is the best word I can think of right now, but like just even having that thought, it's going to change your perspective of what freedom to you would even feel like, or how that is applied. And anyway, that was a very fascinating topic. I really encourage, if you're willing, right? Because there were times where I'm sitting in the audience and I'm listening to these speakers and some of them hit triggers for me, right? Based on my beliefs, my background, and I had to sit with it for a minute.
And I think that leads to another important aspect of this is like starting creating that awareness of what
Yeah.
are my triggers? Why am I responding to this way? So listening to people's conversations where they kind of play devil's advocate, you know,
Yeah.
on what each other's opinions and beliefs are, I think it's really interesting. And, kind of like the Emmanuel Acho,
Mhm.
conversations with a black man,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like he wants to understand other people's perspectives, whether or not he agrees with them, starting off or in the end. It's just expanding
Right.
your horizons and maybe stepping into other people's shoes.
And just how quickly someone's response to something you say or something that you believe in and sharing that can also trigger an emotional response or a thought process and all the fun things. It was a very interesting evening for me, let's just say that.
You know what makes me laugh is like they get really fired up.
They're very convicted, right?
Yes, they have a lot of conviction and defensiveness.
Mhm. Yeah. They did, and in all fairness, I think that if you apply, like, what we're doing here, right? Say this was our full-time job. Um, one day, hit the like and subscribe button, please. Um, but if say this was our full-time job and one of the panelists had made the comment that, if you're creating content, then you should be doing it for money, right? Or for monetary value.
And
Uh,
if you're not, then it's stupid to do it, basically.
Yeah, I was like, "Wow, that wasn't the first reason why we started this." So I don't we have but we have day jobs.
Mhm.
So I was like, "Yeah, the money would be nice, that would
Sure.
allow us to do this more full time, create more of this and expand." But the initial reason was to bring about more self-awareness and self-care and self-love and spread that message further or just trigger thoughts. Like activate thought processes for you.
That make you question everything that has always been.
Right. Right. Sneaky little buggers us. But listening to some of these individuals, like having this conversation, some I was more aligned to, others I was completely polarized with. And again, the point of the whole thing was to trigger all of that within yourself, right?
Mhm.
And then start asking yourself some questions. Why?
How can we grow? How can we be more inclusive? How can we
Hmm.
share our resources, create bigger, better, and more loving communities?
Release judgment.
Mhm.
All the things that we like to practice in our everyday lives doesn't just apply within the circle and the bubble of our everyday lives, but it applies in scenarios like that where you are engaged in these types of conversations. What I find interesting though is that this is not something I would have ever gone to, believe it or not. And that was my own judgment, right?
Mhm.
I didn't think that I was going to have that good of a time, to be honest with you. I was like, oh gosh, this is going to just make me feel icky. Not the kind of conversations I like to dive into very often. My husband normally is I more engaged in those types of conversations. And so, but at the end of the night, he asked me, he's like, did you like it? And I was like, I can't say that I liked everything they said because, again, some of it I did not align to. However, I liked the fact that I was able to sit in a room listening to all walks of life, having a conversation.
I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Did any of your perspectives or points of views or opinions change?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it did. And that was, I say absolutely a lot. So, yes, it did. And that was probably the most intriguing part of it all was watching someone talk. I'm not gonna point names here, but there was one person that I was listening to, and I just got this, like, you get, like, kind of an icky feeling about an individual, And I did know a little bit of background about this person, and so I'm not been aligned to that knowledge of the background.
Mhm.
Again, you only see what is being shown to you, and sometimes it's cut and snippet in a way to present that individual by based on somebody else's bias and opinion. And so meeting that person in person, watching this person talk live right in front of me, literally like 3 feet in front of me, and there's no snippets, there's
Yeah.
no editing, right? And then I got to hear about his family and his family dynamic, and it kinda brought you back to that human part of this individual, and that part I can relate to, right? Again, I was not fully aligned with the thoughts and some of the things that this individual was saying, but I can at least humanize with that person.
Like, what I heard is that you were able to develop a level of empathy
Right,
without agreeing with
right.
their point of view.
Exactly, exactly. And so that part was probably my favorite. Well, also, Daryl, the gentleman that has worked countless years, 41, I think, is what I heard, 41 years uh, on transitioning those that were former members of the triple Ks. I'm not gonna say that part because I don't know if we're gonna get banned,
White
but
supremacist groups.
there you go. But, that was wow, what a story, and his
And doing it all
storytelling.
through love too, through his heart.
Yeah, yeah, and you feel that from him, like, standing there talking to him because I did get to meet him in person and shake his hand and everything, and I was like, "Wow, you can feel that this individual has a lot of will to push love and compassion and lack of judgment towards others," and that was valuable by itself. You
Just getting to be in that
right, just getting to
energy.
be in that energy, yeah. Ooh.
Very cool. I can't wait to watch the rest of that. So, the freedom piece, I'd really like to dive deeper on that in a future episode
Absolutely.
for sure. But one thing about the freedom piece that is going to help me kind of segue into this is this idea of freedom again is different to every single person.
Right.
And so today we wanted to actually go over the topic of justice and like what it like not necessarily what is justice per the definition terms, but
Mhm.
how is that used
Right.
and how do we feel what does it mean to feel like justice has been served? And are we even meant to experience justice?
Yeah. Or even how do you apply justice? Our channel is a lot about spirituality. And so, like, how do you even apply that?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
how does it relate to spirituality too?
Mhm. Yeah. Ooh, here we go.
Well, I think we got our questions now.
We do that sometimes. I like to switch it up to keep you interested.
Yeah. Keeps us, w we don't always know right when we're going into it, so
It's true. It's true. Throw out some topics and we let those brains and guides assist us the rest of the way. So,
Yeah, yeah.
one of the first bullet points that we could talk about is justice as a spiritual value. You know, I do think that many times spirituality, because that is a pretty broad term, right?
Justice or spirituality.
Both.
Yes.
But pinpointing towards what I'm specifically talking about right now is spirituality, because that can be applied to multiple religions
Well, you can have spirituality without having a religion, and you can also find spirituality in
within religion.
religion.
There you
Yes.
go. Yes. And so applying some forms of justice within, and I'm leaning more on in this particular topic, I'm leaning more towards the religious beliefs, right?
Mhm,
So, or within a religion.
mhm.
I and there are areas of certain religions where justice is considered a value within that religion. Some off the top of my head here, you've got uh, areas within Christianity, within Buddhism.
Mhm.
What's the other ones? Hinduism.
So, the first one that I think of is from Christianity. In the Bible, it says an eye for an eye
Mm,
as a form of justice.
okay. Okay.
So, in bringing that to the now, because the Bible was written a real long time ago. But nowadays, like, how do we equate that into our justice system now? Because if somebody, steals, do we cut their hands off? No, thank God. But,
Even though that used to happen.
right,
Right.
right. So is justice really served if we put that person in jail? Or, like, are we just looking at the crime, or are we looking at the reason why the crime was committed? And see, this is a fun topic because there's no perfect answer
No,
to this. There's no one size fits all on this.
no.
Because if that person was stealing food because their family is going hungry and they're just trying to survive, is justice really served? Is the initial crime really the stealing food? Or is it maybe the laws that are in place that are reducing the resource availability for a starving family?
Ooh, yeah. See, these are the thought processes that I am going to enjoy going down, and I'm nervous as well to do this.
Well, but,
But
we're not saying that we have the answers to these questions,
no.
but
Yeah.
rather we're playing devil's advocate, I think, in this episode,
Mhm.
because these are a lot of just, huh,
Aha moments, right.
or moments.
Or contemplative.
Yes. So, like, how do you equate justice across the system based on the crime if, the crime is a result of maybe a negligent governmental body? You can't necessarily hold the government accountable.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, you can try, but that's a that is a mountain to climb.
it is a mountain to climb.
They definitely don't make it easy for a reason.
And there are some individuals that came here to climb that mountain,
Mhm.
and if that is the mountain that, you are here to climb and you have the means and wills to do it,
Please
do it.
climb away.
Climb away. Yeah, I'm not gonna hold you back. So, treating others fairly and equitably.
Again, these are opinion based.
Mhm.
So, what is equitable to one, what is fair to another, may not be the same throughout all humanity.
Right, and who's determining what is fair and equitable,
Right.
right?
Who is deciding this for the collective?
Exactly. Ooh, this is so
And
good.
does that not infringe on our freedoms?
My point exactly. My point exactly. So, justice and social action is another one. So, many spiritual traditions encourage their followers to engage in social action and work towards justice in the world. And so, hence that mountain we were just talking about climbing.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be like climbing to fight big government. It
Right,
can be, fighting the smaller battles in your local communities. It
right.
can be simply volunteering for things like Big Brother, Big Sister,
Yeah,
or Feed America, or other
yeah,
volunteer opportunities, but serving the community. And, again, back to equitable, like, things aren't equal.
no.
I feel like that's an obvious statement,
I hope
which means if they're not equal, are they fair in the first place? But what we can do on our individual terms is creating those communities within our community and supporting one another,
right,
whether it be through, looking on next door and seeing people saying, hey, does anybody have any spare, you know grocery items?
right.
Does anybody have any spare diapers? And just offering the small tokens of giving to
Yep,
one another. Is that justice? No. But does it create a more just society? I think so.
I think it does. Yeah. I definitely think it does. And I also feel that by providing the smaller steps and by doing the smaller ones, especially if you're not in currently a position of the grander mountains that we were talking about a second ago, it just builds. It only builds from there. And by you showcasing your own ability to provide social action in this way, then others could feel more encouraged to do the same. Sometimes it's easier for some to take an action because they've seen someone else already do it.
I also think that in terms of giving, there is opportunities to also give funds. But with that being said, if you are supporting specific political parties, please make sure that you're not just voting for one thing
One thing within it,
and that you're actually looking at everything that they stand for.
right?
Just suggestion.
Oh.
Not a should, just a suggestion because there's a lot of things that are hidden in those,
Yeah.
political parties that you may not necessarily agree with. You may agree with freedom of speech, which hell yeah, I agree with freedom of speech, but I don't necessarily agree that I shouldn't have freedoms over my body,
Mm,
and that's just from one political party.
right. Well, I I'm trying to think about how I wanna respond to that. So, I think, personally speaking, sticking with justice for a second on that particular piece, we should have full autonomy over our own being, right? These are ours. These are our little meat suits that we get to walk around in. Nobody else gets to walk around in them but you,
We've
right?
rented them.
You it is a
You've
rented.
signed the contract to rent your meat suit. So
Remember the part where I said that you chose? You don't remember that, granted, but you did choose to come here. You did pick the meat suit in which you're gonna play out this experience.
Mhm.
So, I feel that if you're coming here to try to, personalize that particular, meat suit and do whatever it is that you're wanting to do with your own meat suit, you should be able to do that. However, I also do think that there are areas where causing physical harm to yourself, uh, can oh, see, I say that, I was about to say that, but then I'm also thinking about the fact that
Some people came here,
to have that experience.
and that's a really tough pill to swallow.
It is.
And I think that's one of the conundrums of Earth School is, ideally, like you and I, and probably many of our listeners, we want this utopia of working together and community and serving each other through our hearts and, you know, being able to, trade and do commerce in a different way to where
Right.
it's, we're not doing the daily grind.
Right.
And many of us, I believe, chose to come here to have that type of experience. But then there are people, there are souls that did come here to have an experience where they're harming others.
Mm,
And so ideally, we would love to be able to live in this do no harm, society.
right.
I would definitely like, you mentioned in I think it was the last episode in developing compassion for the human condition that if we take a moment to take into consideration this thought of, am I harming somebody else by making this choice?
Right.
That is the ideal or an ideal way to live. But again, some people, some souls came to have an opposing experience to that. And I know that that's really tough
Right.
thing to kind of work into this idea of doing no harm and creating this utopian place.
Right. And again, my thoughts are and my beliefs are based on my own soul dropped landing, and my historical background and things that I've learned, more recently, all of that is applied when I make whatever statements that I make, right? So, I think there's this weighing, consistent weighing between what it is that I feel is right for me, and how do I participate in what others feel is right for them, and how do I choose which to participate in? So that's the part that's really, it's kind of the conundrum, right? There are a lot of people that want that choice to be made for them.
Mm.
There's a lot of people that want to be the ones making that choice for others and for themselves. And each of those usually, usually, I hope, are trying to come from a place of uh, what they feel is right, right? That's what I'm hoping, at least here. I mean, I know that there's some evildoers out there and I get that, right? But like, usually people stand in their convictions because they feel so passionate and right about it within their own beings. And so I'm not saying that you have to agree with what they feel is right. And that was a huge lesson in yesterday or in last night.
These convictions, like, I think it's so funny because a lot of people grew up developing these convictions based off of the information that they receive from other people.
Exactly.
So, I mean, like, if you feel very convicted about
Right.
something, I would just be curious, like, where did that come from? Did you develop that based on things that you decided to go out and look for, to research, to experience, and you developed that conviction, or was that handed down? Did you read it out of the newspaper and base it off of somebody else's experience?
Certainly really good questions to be asking yourself.
Does anybody read the newspaper anymore? Is it
Does
all online?
does one actually get dropped off on your driveway? I'm curious. Oh my gosh. So, justice and personal growth.
I think, this question of, can justice truly be served, or is justice equitable and fair, really relates to this a lot.
Yeah.
Because again, your point of view may not be equal to somebody else's point of view. So this leads me back to the panelist discussions, for having conversations with people that you may not agree with 100%.
Right.
Because part of that personal growth is being able to see other people's perspectives, even if you are in disagreement with them,
And it requires you to set aside your own biases and judgments in order to even engage in that conversation in the first place.
and ask questions rather than
Right.
just sitting on your defense chair.
Right. Defense chair.
I don't know.
Got flash image of Abraham Lincoln inside that big, anyway.
I keep thinking of, I don't remember the specific happening or event, but I do recall, and this is going to this next idea, this how justice and forgiveness are
Mm,
related together. And I remember watching a court hearing. This woman, I think her children or her sister were murdered. And basically, like this person that was, in the courtroom for her family members, wanted to forgive the person. And it wasn't necessarily the sentencing
mm,
that they needed. Like they weren't looking for the person to get the death penalty, but they were looking to see if that person had remorse
mm.
and felt bad. And from what I recall, the person that did the heinous act, they expressed remorse during the hearing and was like crying, like physical expressions of remorse. And even though that person was sentenced to jail, what I remember is a woman that lost the family ended up like approaching the person and expressing forgiveness. And if I remember correctly, she hugged him.
Oh, wow.
And I can only imagine the impact of receiving that and being able to give that,
Right.
how that helps somebody to heal, and just
Yep.
like the ability to be able to reach this place of feeling like something just had happened.
Mm,
Little punny words.
I see what you did there.
It wasn't on purpose that time. But I think that, forgiveness, while it's not necessarily a form of justice,
Mm,
I think it is a lot more healing and has more impact for
yeah,
some people.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to counter with a question of, can you forgive without receiving justice? However that's defined for you.
I think it's absolutely possible,
Yeah.
but that's a choice. That's a personal choice.
You know, so in this conversation that happened last night, Daryl had brought up a story in regards to a father who had lost a son, and that son had been murdered, and how the father wanted to retaliate and go after him. And Daryl was talking to this individual as these thoughts and almost stepped into actions were about to occur. And he ended up explaining how asking a question, so instead of going against the person's thought, right? "No, you're wrong. That's a wrong thing to do. Don't do that." And standing firm in whatever stance you feel is wrong or right, he proposed a question to that individual. And that question was, "You just lost a son. You have 2 or 3 other daughters. If you do this, you know that that would cause for you to go to jail. Do you want to lose your
All of them.
daughters as well?" And so by instead of demanding what's right or wrong, it was allowing that other individual to make the choice.
And not only that, but zoom out because he was so hyper focused on, fighting for justice for his son.
Right,
And it's this idea of justice for that, like, you're trying to right a wrong,
right.
but if somebody is already gone, you're not bringing them back.
He said that exact thing. Right. And she didn't get to that part of the video. She said that on her own, just so we're clear. So justice and healing.
So I wrote this question. Will justice be served through karma or God's will?
Oh gosh. And this brings me back to the religious aspect of spirituality, right? Like those that follow the belief system. Well, not even just religion. In the spiritual community, a lot of people believe in karma. That's a whole other topic. We're not going to try to touch that one today. But just thinking about what goes around comes around, right?
The law of threefold also.
Right, right,
You get back what you put out threefold.
yeah. And having how do I say this without offending so many people? I apologize if this next statement offends you. Is your belief being narrowed into a singular point to only assume that us as eternal beings and constant creators will only create a singular scenario to play out? I just want you to ponder on that question for a second. I felt like that was a channeled question.
So are we asking like if there's multiverse theory? Is this where we're going with that?
No,
Oh god, okay.
no. Yeah. I
I'm
mean, it
going
could.
down a different rabbit hole there.
It totally could, but,
Um
like, no, that's not where I was going with that. No, I think what I was trying to convey is, are you narrowing your focus to only believe in one thing? Or can you believe in the possibility of other things? Can you open your minds to believe in other options? So when I talk about karma, for instance, somebody could hold conviction in the belief that karma exists and that it will always be that what goes around comes around. But can you expand from that? Right? Can you try and open yourself up to the possibilities that what you believe in as karma may not be the thing. Now you may not know that till you're no longer here. So, most of us won't. But
well, whatever you give power has power.
right. That's exactly right. And that's the exact point that I'm trying to make right now is
Okay.
that
I
it,
I passed.
yeah. I'm provoking thoughts to those that are listening to this and also with myself right now, and with you. So I'm provoking thoughts towards you feeling that in order to heal, in order to receive justice, that it has to be aligned to the thought process that somebody will get paid back eventually.
Well, I don't think those 2 go together. I don't think in order to heal, you have to first receive justice.
I don't think that either.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is that there's many of those out there in this community that feel that that's
The
a le-
linear process.
right, right. And by saying that, you are giving it power, but to what extent? We are like I said,
Like, are you giving up your power?
right.
I also think that, and we'll just continue on with the word justice. The greatest form of justice will be received in our life review.
That's what I said. That's exactly That's exactly what I said. When I got the little vision box, let me explain because that's a hard one to conceptualize. But when I got the vision box in my channeling and they were showing me this like TV screen and the way that this little TV screen was playing out was almost like it was like a TV that was tilted and I was looking down into it and they only gave me a few snippets because it's not my time, but they gave me a few snippets on what that would be like when they were explaining what a life review is and how it's different for everyone and some may not even require that. You know, maybe all the lessons that they needed to learn were already learned and so they just move on, but they also, showed me this and the snippets were from the perspectives of everything around me, not just me, not just
Mhm.
my experience, but those that I came into cross with from the perspective of the table, from the perspective of the chair I sat in, like all of it and all simultaneously, which was wild. Now, granted, I could only understand a millisecond of that type of data, but could you imagine from your whole life?
Like, that's a lot of,
Right.
and for it to happen so fast too. But, I mean, like, time, again, human construct.
Exactly. Woo!
Um, I'm gonna share maybe an unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think that this life experience is meant to include universal justice.
Hmm.
I don't think we're all supposed to live in a just society in Earth School because Earth School is meant for polarity.
Hmm.
So I think that Earth School, being the hardest school, the most dense,
Yeah.
the one with the deepest pains and the highest joys, I think that there is a level of suffering and learning how to overcome that suffering that is part of this lesson. But I don't think that utopia, as much as it is desired, will occur in this 3D experience. But that could be where this awakening moving into 5D occurs. So
There.
densities, like, as far as, like, vibration levels, in
Right.
higher densities, we don't experience as low of lows. It's definitely a higher vibration as far as the feelings and from my understanding, because I haven't yet experienced it.
I, so my guides, when I've got my eyes wide open and all that fun stuff, my guides tend to download these little mental images as we talk, right? And so what my understanding is from that just now while you were saying that was and please, my guides have their own perspective of things because they have their own experiences, right? So use your discernment. We're going to talk about that one of these days, but use your discernment, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And the way that they just kind of elaborated on what you were saying is that both are true. So,
But then, yeah, probabilities and possibilities and all the multiverses.
oh, sneaky little buggers. So,
So maybe there is a timeline or a version of utopia.
absolutely. Most would probably call it heaven.
Mm. I mean, I don't think heaven is a place off earth. I think we make this place, this experience, our heaven or hell.
So that would be the statement that I got, which was it starts within.
Mm.
You build the heaven within. It's already in you.
As
It's
above,
just
so
bringing it.
below, as within, so without. But it starts here.
Right. So we just skipped right on over that divine part that we were going to talk about today on our little list that we
Oh,
looked
no, I
down at.
think that really,
I
like,
love it.
just helps that is the divine part.
Exactly. Exactly. I like these little conversations.
These are fun chit chats.
I do.
I hope
I
you
do.
guys enjoy these too. And
Yeah.
I hope that these, conversations just make you ask questions also
Yeah.
and reevaluate or just reflect. Like why do you have a belief? How do you think justice is best served? Do
Right.
you feel like justice is meant for this experience? Can you forgive without receiving justice? Curiosity. Be curious.
And can justice bring about hope? Hope's one of my favorite words.
I think you can have hope without justice.
I I wholeheartedly agree with that.
All righty. So
Are we about to do our favorite part of the episode?
we are going to do the collective card reading.
Woohoo! All right. So, there we go.
We are using the Moonology Oracle deck by Yasmin Boland. And today we drew a past, present, and future all right here. And I will flip those over in just a moment.
I have not seen them.
Nope, I haven't either, other than just to make sure they were laying correctly.
Woo!
We will reference the guidebook as needed. Flip the whole deck over. And we are going to start with the North Node. And it says, stepping out of your comfort
No
zone.
way. That's hilarious.
So this is the pass card. The card itself has kind of a lilac violet gradient coloring. So it's whitish towards the bottom. You see very cloud like structures. And then it lifts up towards the sky. You see stars in the sky. And then a horseshoe like
Symbol.
symbol at the top. And that is the symbol for the North Node. The North Node is not a planet. It is not a point on the moon, but rather a point in space related to the moon.
Interesting. Okay.
And in general, the North Node typically represents like where you're headed, like future. But because we pulled this for the past, I'm thinking that our past was our comfort zone.
Oh, and it could be even just last night. I really had to step out of my comfort zone to attend that event. So for me personally, that one made a lot of sense.
And I mean, if time is just a human construct and everything is happening at once, I mean, step out of your comfort zone
Do it
today.
today.
And then 1 minute later, it will be in the
I was gonna
past.
say every second that passes by.
So, in the guidebook, it says that receiving this card symbolizes that it is a time to leave the past behind somehow. Ooh, also in regards to old ways of thinking, limiting beliefs, maybe old laws, maybe old ways of living.
Hmm.
If you want to be happy and fulfilled, you need to get going towards doing the things that scare you within reason. This card is about living your life purpose.
That's amazing because I also feel that comfort zones can be part of your triggers when it feels that those that you come across or situation scenarios, whatever, places, beings disrupt your comfort zone that can activate a trigger within you. Sometimes people put walls up because they don't want to move beyond their comfort zone.
I would also argue that some comfort zones are very uncomfortable
Right.
and they are simply comfortable because you are used to them.
You got comfortable being uncomfortable.
And the unknown outside of that uncomfortable comfort zone is scary.
Yeah,
But guess what? It can also be exciting.
it can. if you choose to focus on it that way. Yes.
One of the additional meanings, you need to face a fear and get over it.
It's so easier said than done, but okay, card.
And also as a reminder that you've got this.
There you go. There you go. I was gonna say, be a little nicer there, book.
All right. So present, full moon eclipse. Ooh, we're getting ready to come on a
Oh.
solar eclipse next week. I think it's next week.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. This one says conclusions are
Within
within
each.
each. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. I was like, poor thing, you have to lean all the way over there. Yeah.
So again, this reflects back on what you said, just going within.
Mhm. Yep. Isn't that fascinating?
Can you describe the card for me, please?
Yeah. So this card is looking at a full moon, and it's eclipsing. But you're seeing it as if you're standing in the woods during a time of the year where there's no leaves on any of the trees. So you're just seeing the trunks of the trees, which is very thinly looked they look pretty thin, and very tall and spiky where the leaves used to be. And then beyond that, you see and then beyond that, you see the stars, in a night sky. Yay. I think I got it. I nailed that.
Beautiful. Let's see. Okay. So, guidebook, it says, and just like that, a door slams shut. This suggests that the situation you're asking about is about to reach its peak or has just done so. What you're experiencing now is what your soul signed up for, a way for you to learn and for your soul to evolve. When we stay rigid in our convictions,
Yes.
that is not evolving.
So glad that card came out.
I
Timely as always.
I mean, I just think about like this you've got this full moon through the bare trees and I think about these trees if they stand rigid as they go through winter, they're going to break. But if you remain nimble and fluid or flexible, then you're more easily able to adapt
And sway with
and
the movement.
and you're actually stronger.
Absolutely. You gotta build a lot of strength to be able to sway like that.
Yeah. That's a lot of core strength.
Mhm. Get it, tree.
If you're letting go of someone or something, know that it's the right time, as hard as it may be,
Mm.
whether that's someone or some convictions. But it's time for you to get back on track. And maybe most importantly, forgiveness will set you free of karma.
Ugh, it does not say that.
It does.
How interesting. See? And whoever wrote this book, right, has a belief in karma. Okay. We're gonna go there someday.
But I mean, like, karma can also just be a synonym for energy,
We can.
depending on what your beliefs are,
That's true. That's true. It could have multiple definitions, however it is defined for each.
because
I know.
words are so clear.
Language.
All right, future. What's coming up? Full moon in Gemini.
The answers you need are coming, is what it says. This card is it's almost as if somebody took a camera, went all the way out into space and took a picture of the moon while the sun is fully shining on the surface of it. All you see are the dark sky and the night in the back with some stars. And then there are two sketches, just black and white sketches of a
The twins for Gemini.
oh, I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. One, they're facing towards us, but kind of off to the side a little bit. One has her eyes closed, one has her eyes open, but they are twin heads. At least from what I can see, they look like each other.
So, this card is a reminder that it's important to speak your truth,
Mm.
but also remembering that your words have consequences and impact your listener. Right now, you need to guard against indiscretion. The issues you're facing could well be one or a few conversations away. See, this I keep getting like key words in here. We've got forgiveness, we've got karma, we've got conversations. The issues you're facing could well be one or a few conversations away from being resolved.
You know what's interesting is that you shuffled this deck and the cards that came out before we even solidified what topic we were gonna talk about today, I was sitting and I was just, doing a meditation and we decided that, well, the guides, I asked them, what's the best conversation for our highest and greatest good? Like for not just the two of us, but for our channel and the growth on our channel and also to the audience and all of our listeners. What is for the highest and greatest good? And this was the topic they said, and they were very like short worded with that. And we've just expanded upon it in our conversation. I will say please try to be kind with some of the things that we have said today that, again, if you're not aligned to it, that's okay. We don't judge you for that. I don't judge myself for not being aligned to certain things, right? So start with that. But okay. I felt like I had to say that.
Noted.
Noted. Nervous.
This card, it reminds us to use our throat chakra to open our throat to have our conversations, but also being mindful of the words that we choose and recognizing that our words do have both emotional and vibratory consequences. And when we're opening ourselves to having conversations with other people about sensitive topics or topics that may result in arguments, really understanding your triggers, being mindful of that, and watching your word choice. If you're recognizing that you're getting triggered and not thinking about your words, take a beat,
Yeah.
take a breath, and just you can even say it out loud. I recognize I'm getting heated right now. Let's
Let me
grab
sit with that.
yeah, let me sit
Right.
with that for a moment. And when we're fired up and saying things with indignation and we're not being mindful of our word choice and we're maybe pointing fingers unnecessarily, right? Where we're triggered, so we want the other person to be triggered. Like watch your words. Like watch yourself.
Yeah.
Just take a minute because words do have enormous power.
They do have enormous power, and they can also cause people that shouldn't feel like they have to be silent to become silent because of fear of backlash and lashing out against them. Everyone wants to be in some form of a community, and when people start to engage in certain topics and they join in on the conversation, that's a part of them that wants to be in the community of joining in on that conversation. And so when you start to rage against the machine kind of there, you could cause that person to not feel like it's okay to say their truth and
I
express that.
absolutely agree. There are definitely people in my life that I am avoidant about having certain conversations because that I know their pattern.
Right,
I'm not to say I'm not saying they can't change or that it couldn't necessarily be different, but I know that there are some people that I'm going to avoid certain topics with because they get heated and because they don't hold space for other people, because
right,
they don't listen.
right.
And I'm not up for that. I'm not up for being yelled at and, their opinions and thoughts shoved down my throat.
Yeah,
Like I'm open to having a discussion with curiosity, with compassion, with trying to understand one another and being okay with, we'll agree to disagree
right.
and I still love you.
All right. Switching back to the card just to wrap this up.
Oh, we're good. Yeah, we're good on the cards.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we're good. Other than you need to laugh it off and just move on. Which is what I do many times. If you're yelling at me because you have a point to make and you're not necessarily yelling at me, but just yelling your conversation, I am not laughing because I agree with you.
Well, speaking of laughing with us, or laughing this off, please be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you are enjoying our content so you can be notified of all future content. Again, by hitting like, it lets us know if you like what we're talking about and if you want more of this. It also helps that wonderful thing called the algorithm. So we appreciate you for that. And of course, we do have social media. So follow us on those shorter formed content material based areas. It is at Love Always Self, or you can check out our website, lovealwaysself.com. We have tons of content and information on there. Carrie writes the most amazing blogs.
Aw,
Um,
it's
and
been a while.
yeah, and we've even done like automatic writing and channeled messages from Mount Glass. You can kind of choose based on the image that you're feeling drawn to receive your message there. So that one's pretty cool.
And please share.
Yeah.
Share us with other people. If you don't know how to start to have conversations that maybe you're curious about certain metaphysical topics or how other people's opinions around you, share our show.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I want you to listen to this episode so we can have a conversation about it. I'd love to know what you think.
Yeah. A little follow up there. That'd be
Yeah.
cool. Definitely. And comment down below. Tell us how that went. We're interested.
And if you have any other topics that you're interested in us diving deeper into, we love feedback, guys.
Yes, we do. So, as always, we love you guys so, so much. We thank you for supporting our channel and for listening to us talk. We hope that you have the best week ahead. We'll see you again next Wednesday.
And let's all focus on the utopian timeline.
I know I am.
Alrighty, y'all. Don't forget to love first
Love last.
and love always. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Bye,
Mwah.
everybody.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista,
And I'm Shyra.
and until next time, remember to love first
Love last.
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.